Good evening. This is Tuesday, October 7th, 28 days until the 2008 presidential election. There is a fine line between a smear campaign and an incitement to violence. And if Senator McCain and Governor Palin had not previously crossed it this week, today even, they most certainly did. Our fifth story on the countdown to tonight's second presidential debate, by all but calling Senator Obama himself a terrorist by inciting the crowds at McCain and Palin rallies to yell, and this is only what reporters have been able to hear, quote, "kill him, terrorist, and treason." The message that the Republican nominee for the highest office in this land has approved makes Willie Horton or the Swift Boat ads seem quaint and almost respectable. At a morning rally in Jacksonville today, Governor Palin not only again inflating beyond all recognition the link between the Democratic nominee and William Ayers, a reformed member of a radical anti-Vietnam War group known as the Weather Underground, the governor also making light of it.
Now, our opponent's campaign is claiming that for the first time, Barack Obama wasn't aware of Ayers' radical background. Barack recently remembered him as just a guy in the neighborhood. But wait a minute there. You mean to tell me that he didn't know that he had launched his own political career in the living room of a domestic terrorist?
Yet there is nothing to be made light of when at the very same rally, a candidate's taunts about her rival incite a member of the crowd to shout treason, as happened when the governor falsely claimed that U.S. troops in Afghanistan have not been involved in attacks on Afghan civilians.
I hope Americans know that is not what our brave men and women in uniform are doing in Afghanistan.
This would be the second consecutive day that Governor Palin's rhetoric has inflamed the crowd in a manner exceeding politics or rationality. The Washington Post reporting that when Governor Palin recounted the Obama and Ayers portion of her stump speech in Clearwater, one man in the audience proposing to, quote, kill him. Whether the remark was directed at Senator Obama or Mr. Ayers, the remark and the report so shocking that the Secret Service is tonight investigating. A spokesman, Malcolm Wiley, telling Radar magazine that the agency did not hear any threatening statements directed at targets under its protection, and no threatening statements were reported to us by law enforcement or citizens at the event. Yet in the wake of the newspaper report, it is investigating because, says Mr. Wiley, we take all threats seriously. The Washington Post also reporting that at the same event, when the governor bashed the media, Palin's supporters began to hurl abuse at reporters in the press area. One even shouted a racial epithet at an African-American sound man for a TV network, also telling him to, quote, sit down, boy. Despite that, knowing that, the hateful, hate-filled rhetoric continuing unabated today, extended even to press releases. The chairman of the Republican Party in Pennsylvania, where McCain is bleeding, down by 10 to 15 points, sending out a mass email entitled Obama, a Terrorist's Best Friend, which reads in part, quote, what does it say about the character of Barack Obama that he knowingly associates with terrorists? It tells me that Obama lacks the judgment and character to be our next commander-in-chief. Taken together, what could well be the sleaziest 4 days in modern American political history, 4 days in which it is easy to see where Senator McCain or Governor Palin might have induced in an embittered or unintelligent individual the premise that Senator Obama either associates with terrorists or might even be one himself.
One of Barack Obama's earliest supporters is Bill Ayers, a domestic terrorist. Domestic terrorist.
The known domestic terrorist.
Unrepentant domestic terrorist. Domestic terrorist. Domestic terrorist. Part of a group that, quote, launched a campaign of bombings that would target the Pentagon and our U.S. Capitol, our United States Capitol. Obama held one of his first meetings of his political career in Bill Ayers' home.
In the guy's living room?
In the living room of a domestic terrorist? Of a domestic terrorist? Of a domestic terrorist? Our opponent is someone who sees America as imperfect enough to pal around with terrorists, domestic terrorists who targeted their own country, targeted his own country.
Who is the real Barack Obama?
Time now to call on our own Richard Wolff, also, of course, senior White House correspondent for Newsweek magazine, joining us now from the site of tonight's debate in Nashville. Richard, good evening.
Good evening, Keith.
What is really the scarier proposition here, that Obama chaired the board of the Chicago Annenberg Challenge to improve inner-city education, on which William Ayers happened to sit alongside many Republicans who were not upset to have him there, or that Senator McCain and this Governor Palin are putting themselves on camera with lunatics who are shouting, kill him, terrorist, and treason?
Well, this is the freak show season of politics, and that's no excuse for what's gone on. And of course, when you have these crowds shouting things, maybe the people on stage can't hear them, and that's also no excuse, because what you're seeing here is a very conscious attempt to paint Obama as un-American, as unpatriotic, and yes, cohorting, consorting with what they call domestic terrorists. Now, I happen to think that this is actually not just distasteful but bad politics, because number one, you're turning off the suburban independent voters, whether it's the crowd reaction or the kind of rhetoric coming from the stage, those voters who will decide this election. And secondly, if you are going to play this card, then do what the Australian Conservatives do, which is dog whistle politics. Only certain people can hear the message. This isn't dog whistle politics as they're playing it. This is foghorn politics, and it's not subtle.
If Senator Obama is, as they are painting him, this scary, dangerous terrorist sympathizer or best, why in the world is Senator McCain agreeing to share a stage with him? I mean, he wouldn't agree to talks with Mahmoud Ahmadinejad. Shouldn't McCain be turning Obama into the authorities or something?
Well, I don't think he did want to share a stage with him last time around. He made that very obvious. Look, no one really believes that McCain thinks Obama is a terrorist or an Ahmadinejad type of person. This is clearly a tactic born out of the position they're in to raise huge question marks about Obama's status, his frame of mind, and his allegiance. If they really believed that, then the question would be on point. But his distaste for Obama is very clear, and his challenge tonight is not to show that.
The desperation, before we talk again about the debate tonight, the McCain campaign called timeouts when the hurricanes hit, canceled one night of the Republican National Convention out of respect for victims and those in danger. But today, Governor Palin did not have the respect to not attack Senator Biden while Senator Biden was attending his own mother-in-law's funeral. Is that really even a truer measure of just how desperate this campaign has become?
You know, they've tried so many suspensions and they haven't really worked. I think it would have been a classy move. It certainly would have been respectful. And by all accounts and appearances, there was actually a genuine amount of respect between Palin and Biden at that last debate. So it would have been good, but they need to set up this debate for tonight, because all the expectations are that John McCain will not come out and be as negative, so Sarah Palin had to do the work for him.
So what happens? What does he talk about if he's not going to come out and talk about terrorism? He's lost every other issue and shut down his own discussion of the economy.
Well, number one, I think he has to repair the damage of the first debate. He has to probably embrace Senator Obama. He has to show his human side. He has to look at the camera and look at the other candidate on stage. And then he can move on. But, you know, the idea that he can go out and be this kind of aggressive on stage tonight in front of a town hall, as they have been on the campaign trail, is really not going to fly tonight.
Richard Wolff of MSNBC and Newsweek at the debate for us tonight. As always, sir, great thanks.
Thank you, Keith.
The Rovian tactic of old was, of course, an attempt to scare voters into believing vote Democratic and you will die. Die because terrorists would then kill you because the Democrats would let the guard down. The new McCain-Palin tactic seems to be the next version of this. Vote Democratic and the Democrat himself might kill you. For more on where the barometer has now been set by the McCain campaign, let's turn to our own Jonathan Alter, also a senior editor at Newsweek magazine. John, good evening.
Hi, Keith.
Why aren't the Republicans scared to death about the crowd reaction to the sleaze here? Is there no fear that either on the safety level or the political level they are playing with fire if they're getting this kind of response from crowds?
Well, first of all, I'm not sure that all Republican strategists quite get this yet, because this story is really kind of ripening today. But they are willing to win ugly. More likely they're going to lose ugly. But they're going to do what they believe it takes to win this election. And all of the old standards about playing with fire, about turning people, into human punching bags, unleashing the furies of the dark side of American politics, perhaps risking some people's lives if things get out of control. All of that is out the window in the service of winning an election. And the ironic thing is, it doesn't even help them. It's not smart politics, which makes it all the more terrible. If this was somehow, if you were a Republican and you thought, hey, this is going to help us win the election, but a smart Republican like a Mike Murphy type knows that this doesn't help them win the election.